Well, hello there. Welcome to our Friday demo. I am super happy you are here with me. Hope you had a wonderful week and ready to cap off your Friday with a pouring demo. I'm excited about this one. I'm going to be doing a double cup pour with one of my favorite color palettes. I don't think I've actually used this color palette in a double cup pour technique, so excited to see what happens. So the color palette I'm using is similar to this painting over here, that one, and the technique I'm doing is similar to the one right behind me. So we're going to be using one color in one of our cups, so it's going to be like our negative space color, and the other cup will be layered with multiple colors, and hopefully we'll get something very cool. So I'm excited. So let's see who is here. We have got Carla and Pat. Welcome. Monique is here. Fantastic. Lily, great to see you. Judy is here as well. Happy Friday, Judy. All right. And Elsie is here as well. Awesome. So, and Barbara is here. Fantastic. Great to see you. And by the way, Barbara has an awesome Instagram account. Little shout out to B-Man. And she just posted an amazing pearl cloud pour. I love it. So congrats on that one, Barbara. Go check it out if you have an opportunity to see Barbara's awesome paintings. And let's see, we got Sybil is here too. Fantastic. Another Barbara has joined us. Fantastic. So cool. Let's go ahead and get started with our double cup pour, aka a kiss pour. So I'm going to flip the camera over. We'll go through the color palette and then we'll get started. So let's go ahead and flip over here and I'll show you what I got going on. So I have a 16 by 20 canvas I'll be working on. It's all prepped and ready to go. And here is one of my favorite color schemes, color palettes. It's a fairly simple one, but it's very oceany, kind of beachy color palette. I'm excited about it. So we've got some Liquitex Gold, Payne's Gray from Liquitex, probably my favorite Payne's Gray, some Artist Loft Turquoise, which I find this is a very beautiful turquoise. It's not too dark, it's not too light, it's not too blue, and it's not too green. So it's one of my favorite turquoise colors. And of course, Artist Loft Metallic Blue, one of my all-time favorites. Just a beautiful metallic blue color. And for my white, I'm using Folk Art Multi-Surface Satin. And I tried this one out we had our white test last week, I believe, inside the membership, where I tested out 4 different white paints. I'm on my search for different whites, and this one was one of the coolest ones we tried. So we'll see what happens with this one. And I've mixed in just the tiniest a bit of our Artist Loft Blue in with the white. I didn't want a stark white color. I wanted a little bit of a off-white. So there's just a touch, and I'm talking a tiniest drop of blue into our white, and it just tinted it enough. So I'm really pleased with that. And the formula I'm using is our Liquitex formula, and I've got 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part paint, and 1/2 part of our Liquitex pouring medium in here. And I'm using the number 3 consistency for all these paints. So it's a little bit thinner than I would normally do with like a ring pour or a straight pour. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see what we get. So those are the colors, and we're going to move the paints, and let's go ahead and layer our cups. So I'll get these out of the way. So the first one is really easy. All we're going to do is pour in our white. I've got these 7-ounce cups here, 2 of these, and I'm going to be using about 5 ounces of paint in each one. We need about 10 ounces for a 16 by 20, doing a straight pour or a ring pour. So about 5 ounces, maybe a touch more, just because there's always a little bit of paint left over in the cups when you're doing a double cup pour. So I might add just maybe half an ounce more to each of these cups, but about 5 ounces is what we need. So let's go ahead and put our blue in there, or I mean our white, excuse me. So there we go, and I'm going to use the rest for our base coat, just a thin base coat, and that'll be our 1 cup and also like a negative space color. And the second cup, I'm going to just scooch this over here, and we're going to just layer it with all these different colors plus probably a little bit of our white in there too. I want to get some of our negative space color in with our other colors. So I'm going to start with our gold, I think, and that'll be our center, kind of the center of our painting, one of the focal spots. Then I'm going to go with a little bit of our white next, just like that. And then I'm going to start adding some blue and turquoise, and then our dark Payne's gray. And I'll probably just repeat that order another 1 time or so. So a little bit of gold, just a touch of our white, and some blue and turquoise, a little bit of our Payne's gray, and I'm almost, where's my line? I have my indicator on there. We're right there at our level. I'm going to put just a touch of blue in there. There we go. And a little more turquoise, and that's it. So we've got both cups layered up, ready to go. And we'll spread our base coat on. I'm going to just move these out of the way. So we just need a small amount of paint for our base coats. I'm going to just scrape the rest of this out. And spread this around. This will just help our paint slide around a little easier when we get to the tilting stage. Just going to have enough, I think. Let me see if I can get a little bit more out of there. That looks good. Mostly the corners, I want to get something on the corners, makes it, and the edges makes it a little easier, especially on the corners. I'm going to kind of turn this. Ooh. There we go. So that looks pretty good. It's looking pretty bright on the screen. I might adjust the exposure quickly here. But we've got our base coat on. We are ready to go. So I'm going to flip the camera, and you can get a little closer view of our paint puddle as it comes out. So here we go. So here's my hand is kind of right in the center of our canvas, and that's where I'm going to pour our colors. And the only other thing I need to do or want to think about at this stage is the orientation of my cups. So I'm going to be holding the solid color cup in my left hand, the other cup in the layered cup in my right hand, which is my dominant hand, which makes it easier. And I'm going to pour kind of at an angle this way. So I want to kind of think about where I want that negative space to be. And I'm going to be turning my cups a little bit as I pour them out. So just to kind of change the look of the paint puddle. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to just put my cups together and get that paint going at the same time. And just a nice thin stream is what I'm looking for. It can be tricky doing these double cup pours, and I have my cups kind of layered on top of each other. They're not touching. I have my layered cup a little on top of my single color cup, and the colors are just kind of floating down on top of each other. And you could also do this with a split cup if you wanted to. That works really well, and it's a little easier. It's a whole lot easier actually than manipulating two cups. So we're getting close here to the end. And this is kind of the tricky spot. I'm going to tilt both cups back. I'm going to wipe a drip off my one and then stick it underneath the other one, just so I avoid getting any weird drips. And there we go. We've got our puddle, which is looking pretty interesting right now. I'm going to flip back to the the top camera, and you can check it out before we get into our tilting. So we got a lot of color, and it's all kind of crunched in here with the white. So we want to kind of expand that and stretch it, and it will move around as we start tilting. But we've got lots of white down here, and so far it looks pretty cool. It looks kind of cloudy, like we're getting some satin enamel effects. And that paint I'm using, that white folk art paint, is not a satin enamel paint. It actually looks kind of like it's doing a satin enamel effect though. But let's go ahead and start tilting and we'll see what we get. So I'm going to just start by expanding my puddle. It's kind of slowly opening up this puddle, spreading it over the canvas. That's what I do pretty much 90% of the time when I'm doing a pour. There we go. So you're getting some cool cells happening in there. I'm liking the kind of the shapes we're getting. So now I got to decide. We've kind of expanded over the bulk of the canvas. Now we're going to start tilting off of the edges and the corners. I'm going to start over here on this corner. First, we've got lots of white, and I want to get our colors stretched out. So I'm going to bring the paint back over here and tilt the white parts off first. So I'm just getting it over that corner, and then I'm going to go a little more, then bring it back. So far so good. Now we're going to go to this corner over here, and you can see that all the color is starting to stretch out. And we're getting some cool cells popping up, which is fun. So I'm just moving the paint back towards the center of the canvas before I move on to the next corner. I think I'm just going to work my way around. So go down here next. I think I want to get some more color on this corner. So I tilted a little bit more off just so I could get some color down there. And not too thrilled with that. We might come back, adjust that a little bit. And so let's finish with our corners first though. I'm just slowly moving the paint back down here, and you'll notice that the paint moves a little slower because we have less of it now, but just take your time. You can use your fingers to kind of move that paint a little bit over the very tip of that corner. And I think I missed a spot right on the end, but you can kind of use your finger and pull that down. I think that's okay. So I'm just going to set it down. We've covered everything. I'll take a look at it. It's kind of like this cool blue wave effect happening. I'm going to tilt a little more, I think. I think I want to get a little more color over in this side of the painting. Got to be careful not to get drips over there. So I'm going to bring the kind of the paint back down, do a little bit of a adjusting here. I want to just get some color over this edge. I think I like that. This is all small, minor composition things. You're just kind of tweaking our composition. Might take a little more of our white off of this corner. And I don't want to go crazy because I don't want to really stretch out our cells and get them all really weird, but I'm liking the way they're looking as I'm continuing to stretch and tilt. So I like that quite a bit. I'm going to come back maybe and mess with this corner a little bit. I probably should have adjusted it when I was back there. I think I'm going to stop because I'm not liking the way the paint is moving. So I'm going to just leave that. I should have corrected it back when I first noticed it, but I'm going to leave it. It's fine. And see if there's any final adjustments I want to make. And so far, I'm quite happy with the composition. It's a cool shape. Interesting negative space. I really like the cells. So I think I might just leave it just like that. And I think I'm going to adjust. It's kind of difficult to see all the details. I'll zoom in a little bit. You can kind of get a close-up. But I'm pretty happy with it. I really like, I'm going to point some things out. I think my favorite part is just this interesting kind of S shape we've created with the composition. I really like that a lot. And this big white area kind of brings you into the composition and moves you around. We've got a lot of color over here. Very cool cells happening. So pretty pleased with the way this one turned out. So I'll zoom in a little bit and you can get a little closer look. So I'll show you, this is that corner I'm not super happy with, but it's not worth messing with and wrecking the whole painting. We did get a couple little pearl cells right up there. That's because I'm using these slightly thinner paints. But this is that folk art satin or premium, whatever it's called. It does a really nice job. It's very reactive and you get a lot of cool effects. Now our gold kind of got, excuse me. Sorry about that. I got a little tickle in my throat. But like I was saying, a lot of our gold got lost, which can happen sometimes. It's kind of hard to predict the gold, but we do have little hints of it here and there. And once it dries, you'll be able to see kind of the shimmery gold kind of throughout the rest of the painting. So there we go. That is our double cup pour using slightly thinner paints. And I'll show you that folk art white again if you want to check it out. It does some pretty cool stuff, so I'm pretty happy with it so far. I've done, there again are those really interesting cells, and they kind of remind me of cloud cells, but without so much cloudy reaction. So I quite like that paint. I'll show you what it is again. Let me flip the camera here. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them in the comments. But let me grab this paint. It's called Folk Art Multi-Surface Folk Art Multi-Surface Satin. And satin is the sheen, of course. I don't think it's a satin enamel, but it does some pretty cool stuff. So you can get this at Michael's. This is a 8-ounce container. I think they have a larger one and a smaller one. But it's pretty affordable, so you can give it a shot. I've been trying out a lot of different whites and, oops, excuse me. A lot of different whites to find kind of a replacement for the Artist Loft Flow Acrylic, which I have been using so often. And I was just not happy with the cloudy effect you get all the time using that, so I've been looking for other whites to kind of replace that staple that I've used for so long. So anyway, just check and see if there are any questions that came up. And let's see here. Thanks for all the great comments. Glad you like it. I'm pretty happy with it. So sorry about my camera. It keeps going black. I'm not sure why that is. I'll have to check that out. All right. Okay, well, no questions, but Just 1 second here. I'm just checking the comments. Lots of comments. And, oh, Barbara says, it's a good question. It's a complicated one. How do you get out of painter's block? That can be a tough one. My recommendation is if you're kind of struggling with, and there's a couple different types of painter's blocks you could get. Lack of new ideas, kind of just stuck doing the same thing, lack of motivation to paint, you know, just kind of find it difficult to paint. You're just like unmotivated. There's a lot of different kind of ways you can kind of get into like a painting funk. But I'd say the biggest one is just to maybe take a break, not paint for a week, don't even think about it, and then kind of come back and kind of approach it again. And when you come back, start with, if there's one technique you particularly really like, start with that one. And start with colors you really like. And that can kind of re-energize you a little bit. Or you could do the exact opposite and just, if you're kind of bored with doing the same thing over and over again, you could just jump into something totally different and give it a shot with maybe colors you're unfamiliar with or maybe afraid to try. So you could go either of those two ways, but I'd recommend just take a break for a little while. If you're finding it difficult to kind of get out of your painting funk, and hopefully that will kind of energize you or give you a little spark to get going. They can be tough, these little painting funks, and there's multiple ways to try to, you know, get out of them, but that's what I recommend, is just start with like a little break and see how it goes. So hope that helps. Good question, Barbara. And yeah, Barbara said, I wasn't looking, the lack of motivation. Yeah, that can be a tough one. Again, I'd probably recommend a break and try to not think about it, and then for a week at least, and then sometimes you'll just get an idea and that will kind of re-energize you or re-motivate you to get going. So, and then Barbara, alcohol? Well, maybe, but I would avoid that probably, at least excessively. But Barbara also said it's been a week. Well, in that case, if you've already taken a break and you're still not out of your kind of funk or motivation, you have no motivation to paint, you can give yourself an assignment, and you could say, I'm going to create, and kind of push yourself out of your comfort zone. Like if you're used to working with a certain size, work with either a larger size or maybe a series of smaller sizes. But give yourself a little task. Like, I'm going to do a great big painting, and this is like a project, and I'm going to decide on the colors, write this stuff down, and pick a technique. So it's kind of like you're giving yourself a commission, and you're kind of focused on getting that commission done. Or it could be one big painting or a series of smaller paintings. So you can come up with a theme, and write all this stuff down. Plan it out. Give yourself a couple of days to think about this. Plan it out, and then go execute it. And make sure you stick to like a schedule or something. And that can, giving yourself kind of like instructions, like a kind of a kick in the ass, can help you think about painting in a different way. So, you're kind of trying to motivate yourself by giving yourself a job, which is kind of weird, but it can help and it can work. So hopefully that helps, and you get out of your painting funk. You're a great painter, so I'm not too worried about it. You'll find your way out. So, all right, everyone. So, no other questions? And Carla's got a great idea. She says, I always go back to playing with different color palettes and mixing things together I don't normally do. That's a great way to do it. Just trying something different out of your comfort zone is a really good way to just kind of re-energize yourself. So great comment or great ideas, Carla. And Lily is asking, 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part paint. How much is a half part Liquitex? Well, it depends on the part size you're using. So let's say it's a 1 ounce. You're using a 1 ounce part size. That would be 1 ounce of paint, 2 ounces of Floetrol, 1/2 ounce of Liquitex. So just take your part size, divide it in half, and you're good to go. So, and the part size can be anything you want. It could be 1 ounce, it could be 2 ounces, it could be, you could use tablespoons, whatever you want. That would be your part size. And I go by part size because it allows you the flexibility to mix up whatever amount of paint you need for your painting. So hopefully that helps. Great question. All right. Cool. Well, thanks everybody. And don't see any other questions. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great weekend. Go check out this folk art. I forgot the name already. Folk art multi-surface satin paint if you want to get some cool effects. And I will see you next time. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye-bye.